All right. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. My name is Mark Brown. I work for Oracle, and I am one of the product ambassadors for middleware. So that's a long-winded way of saying I work for Oracle and help make sure our salespeople know what they're doing. We're going to start with a word from our lawyers, because there are some things in here that might change, strategy, all that good stuff. So we have to put that in there. Why did I push the wrong button? That would be why it went blank. So we'll talk a little bit about the mobile world. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I want to talk more about why mobile first, a few of the trends we're seeing, and then some of the things we can do as an organization, what Oracle can help you with. Again, regardless of what your end technology decisions are, we've been down this path a few times now. I'll tell you some stories about some customers. In fact, let's start with the city of Los Angeles. Anybody here from Los Angeles? They're actually here at this session. So, several different things they've put in. MyLA 311, which is, they've got a booth right outside. Los Angeles Water and Power, Department of Building Services. So all that stuff sounds like an investment. Department of Water and Power started as self-service for ratepayers, citizens, to come in and be able to do things like, hey, I'm moving. Turn that service off, turn this service on. Am I on the right rate plan? I want to set up e-billing. Started as that interface, quickly became a mobile interface, and now it's one of the most heavily used assets that the city presents. Reduces calls to the call center, reduces wait times for customers, basically increases the user satisfaction, which is something we all strive for. DBS, which is their Department of Building Services, was one of those situations where you would walk in, if you were a contractor, say you were going to put a new roof on a house, you would walk in and you'd see this line, and it was at least a 4-hour line. We've all had that experience where you walk up and you go, this is a 4-hour line. I'm getting paid to do this, but not enough. Back in the truck, go put the roof on, don't get a permit. Pretty common occurrence. So DBS put together this portal, property search, online permits. You can actually pull up the GIS and see the property, make sure it's the one, that the records are all correct. What they saw was an increase in revenue. Not only did the wait times go down from the 4-hour line, but they saw more people were willing to spend to get the permit because it was so much easier. So mobile didn't just make things more efficient, it actually increased their revenue. So the mobile aspects are things like checking on a permit, whether or not seeing you could see the interface there. That's an iPad with the GIS information on it, so you don't have to always be tied to a laptop. Again, pushing the wrong button. Self-service shopping cart, again, they take revenue right there. They take revenue from that portal. Goes straight into the system. So why is mobile first so important? Well, we all have mobile apps, right? We all have mobile things. What's so important about mobile first? Because mobile is a philosophy as much as anything. Mobile isn't about the app, okay? I'm going to say that right now. Mobile has very little to do with what I'm holding in my hand. This is a display technology. Thick, thin, it doesn't matter. How many apps do we have on our phone that we never use? How much garbage is on our phone right now? On the other hand, there are a few apps that you use all the time. All the time. What's unique about those? What's special about those? They provide some sort of value to you right off the top. You see it, you say, hey, that's valuable. Whether it's a file sync and share like a Google Drive. Hey, I have that document in my hand, I can use it right now. Make no mistake, that's what that is about. It's not about the fact that the file's in the cloud. Nobody cares. What they care about is it's on their hand, it's in their hand. Oh, and it's the same one on their iPad. It's the same one that their colleague can see. That's what the value is there. Well, we want to take that mobile experience, that experience of that device being so valuable in those narrow cases, and we want to extend that to the way business is done. And I'll talk more about all these. There's way too many examples up there, way too many ideas. I want to focus on some key things. So why would you want to connect your workforce? Well, that one's kind of obvious. That one is productivity. I don't know about the rest of you, but my office is wherever I'm at. It has to be. I don't spend enough time sitting at a desk to be able to say I'm productive when I'm at my desk. Your citizens, your constituents, whatever that word means in your particular case, well, there's a revenue opportunity there. There's a benefit of having the information in a context that they like. I saw an ad, and I'm going to give them a plug because I just thought it was exactly the right message. Guy standing in his shorts in the ocean, holding a phone, and saying, "This is my office," holding the phone up. Where are you now? What are you doing? 60% of traffic on the internet right now is mobile. What are you doing to encourage your citizens to be able to switch from that context, Facebook, Instagram, whatever they're doing on the mobile world with their device, into your world? Is it a completely disconnected experience? Because if it is, they're going to be frustrated and they're maybe not going to find what you're trying to present to them. And then, of course, things. And I have an example of that. So why does it matter? Of course, mobile has this other interesting thing. I read somewhere that in the developing part of the world, the internet actually goes to sleep at night. I think we're way past that here. These things are literally 24/7. And you can put these tools out. You can drive some behaviors. And I'll talk about one of those in just a second if I can stop pushing that wrong button. Okay, so mobile use cases, I'll spend a second on these. So if you're in law enforcement, being able to look stuff up, being able to be pushed information that's important and not have to look it up. The application that understands the traffic situation. That I worked on District 4 traffic operating system about 20 years ago. And boy, if everybody had a mobile device, then we wouldn't have had to put a single CMS up. Instead, now we have all these CMSs up there telling me that there's an accident ahead of me. So you could push that information to me if I let you, which is how you want to do it. You can go through this list and virtually everything we do as employees, as citizens, as providers, as integrators, has to be mobile. It has to be. So I want to challenge you to think about mobility a little bit differently, I guess. It's about securely connecting people with information so that they can make decisions, that's implied, anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter what device, it doesn't matter how you get the information out there. You have to do it securely, and it has to be the right information, and you won't be able to predict everybody's right information. It may be iterative, so you need a platform that helps support that model. Couple of highlights here. CIOs all over the world, they're up to 90% say that they're going to have more than 25 mobile apps in 2014. And keep in mind, every mobile app is a portal, a website. It's an app that's built in an app store model or a private app store model. It's something that says this is a mobile solution. Pretty much all the development, 3/4 or 4-to-1 in terms of development resources going into mobile solutions right now. And the market for apps, if you want to build an app and charge for it, is growing way faster than the traditional software. But why is that hard? That makes it hard. Those kinds of numbers are scary. This is maybe the equivalent of internet development in 1999. For those of you old enough to remember that, it was kind of a gold rush. It was kind of everybody has to be on the internet. Okay, BYOD, I'll talk more about that in the security section, but bringing your own device is expected now. The days of buying BlackBerries and handing them to people they're gone. Now, there are some cases you could argue with me if you chose that, the police officer with the phone that the department provides, that's a perfectly reasonable acquired object that's handed to that person. And that makes sense. That's a business decision. Security, all those other reasons. But generally speaking, if I want to change my vacation time, or I want to report a broken sewer main, you have no control over what device I'm going to do that from. So you have to think about a bring your own device model. Everybody's worried that it's going to be expensive. And that's kind of normal in the early stages of any technology. They deploy something, it doesn't quite meet the mark. Maybe they didn't architect it right in the first place. They have to go back and rework it. It's expensive. But after a few times, you kind of hit your stride. So that's not unusual, but it is reality right now. So if you go in and tell your bosses, hey, we're going to do a mobile first strategy, we're going to do all this, you may get some resistance, and you have to be aware of that. Push the right button this time. Okay, the main one on here is meeting the needs of the constituents. There's a lot of words on this slide. That's the only one I want you to remember. Why mobile first? Because your constituents expect it, whether it's your employees, partners, providers, business partners, doesn't matter. Everybody expects it to be mobile. If it's not, you look broken. Everything else up there is good to have. You can get some best practices and you can do that stuff, but it's the needs of the end user. We've never been in a better position to be influential to the end user. So let's talk about what we have. You want to build an app? You can build an app. You want to use our mobile packaged apps? Maybe you're running eBusiness Suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, those apps, Agile, we got a laundry list and that'll come up later. You can use those. No matter which, we have one way of thinking about security, and it's a platform that will simplify those things, because let's get into that a little bit more. Okay, so this is just a sampling of the mobile modules available from Oracle today. So if you're running Siebel, there's 2 or 3 up there. If you're running JD Edwards, there's 2 or 3 up there. That's just a sampling. More are coming. Well, it's solved, problem solved, right? Deploy those and you're good to go. Okay, let me tell you a story about Northumbrian Water. Northumbrian Water. So they're going out, they have eBusiness Suite, field service, mobile application on their devices. They're going out to look at valves and do what water people do all day. They're finding situations where the technician or the guy who gets out of the truck, he goes out and he looks, and he stares at it and he says, oh, that's a type 4. I only have a type 5 replacement. I don't know what to do. Goes to the service app, fills out that he showed up, what he did, gets back in the truck and drives away. A couple days later, work throw comes through, says, go back and put in the type 5. It's a valid replacement. Okay, great. Took 2, 3 day, 4 day turnaround. They're running the eBusiness Suite application, so they were mobile. So what they did is they built a little application, a little sidecar application, if you will, that immediately, when he entered in what the situation was, went to a supervisor. So no matter where the supervisor was, they got a little screen pop that said, hey, Bob's out on the street. He's got this issue. click here to say it's okay, or click here to give him some, type in your guidance, hit enter. Works. 10-minute turnaround time. He puts it in, he sits in the truck for a few minutes, he kind of looks around, makes sure he has stuff, looks back. Oh, I can put that in. My bosses have checked off that it's okay to put that in. He goes and puts it in. Doesn't drive away, doesn't leave, right? Create that scenario. That's an example of eBusiness Suite will never know what that requirement was. The people that are building that mobile app will never know what that requirement was. You will. You'll know your constituents in that case, the driver, the technician, has to have that information. You can build that little screen for him. Yes, you have the other application and all that, but you have to build something to do that. So the goal would be any application, any platform, one platform, any app, anytime, but securely. So this is back to that Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Lot of technology involved there. And the reason there's a lot of technology involved there is because mobile is another word for integrated. Integration is as important to your mobile strategy as what technology you use to get the stuff over the wire. I almost said down the wire. Over the air to the device. It's probably more important. This is where the cost comes from, is if you start with a mobile strategy that says we need to get these 10 pieces of data on the screen, and you go get those 10 pieces of data from the back end without some infrastructure to support it, then you have 10 pieces of data that create in one space, and then you do it again, and you do it again. Now you have this spaghetti, right? So integration strategy is as important to your mobile strategy as anything. So that's why it looks like it looks. It's a platform in the middle that allows you to do this back-end tying together, whether it's a cloud application, maybe you're using Salesforce as your citizen tracking system, whether it's on-premise, your JDE, and obviously it's all the custom apps that you've been writing as well. You only have to integrate it once now in this platform model. Now you can start consuming it from these different applications as you need. And this slide looks very familiar because it's the same. It is that one platform. Mobile application framework is that piece in the middle. That's the name of the product that we sell that allows you to build things on it. Now, what does it include? It includes all the things you would expect. It's a framework for building applications. Both applications in the sense of native apps, Android apps, or iPhone apps, iOS apps, I guess technically, and web apps. And that's important because not everybody's going to let you put an app on their desktop, on their device, on their mobile device, or on their iPad. Some will love it, some won't. But by being modular and componentized, you can then reuse that component across different use cases. And I'm going to give a pitch for my friends out at 3DI. So the Las Vegas app that they have, if you haven't seen it, they bought the bags for you guys, by the way. The Las Vegas app is a great example. It's got a little carousel on the front. And as a new service, so one of the services is parking availability. So it tells you what the parking lot rates are around as you go around the town. Okay, great. New service comes up. A new icon shows up on the carousel. So I loaded the app that has the carousel on it, but they're populating the carousel as services become available. So it's growing for me. I don't have to go update my app every 2 days. I don't have to understand any of that stuff. All I know is, hey, my Las Vegas Visitors app has more stuff on it. Cool, let's see what's there. And that's how these back-end services, inventory services, credit check services, all those things can just be a step in the process. Department of Building Services. I want to get a permit and it's going to be $10,000. Here's my American Express card. Maybe they want to run a credit check on me before they approve that permit. Maybe. Depends on the workflow. It's up to them. But that's how you build in those kinds of things. If you tried to build all that into one mobile app, it would be just this monster, and then it would be very brittle, and it'd be very difficult to change the rule. Okay, we change the rules. $10,000 is now below the line. $11,000 is above the line. How do you make that change? Is it hard-coded in some big piece of spaghetti somewhere, or is it a rule and an engine that you can go access? So I mentioned security more than once, so I want to make sure we talk about that a little bit. So security to us is more than just interesting. Okay, so there's more slides on security. I wonder, that's interesting. I've never seen that. It's more than just intrusion detection. It's more than just your authentication. It's more than just access management. It's all those things. And with Mobile Security Suite, which is a new product from us, it's about being able to go in and wipe just the app off of a device. So I'll talk more about that in a second. And then, of course, it has to scale. I don't think there's much question about scalability, but it has to be available. It has to scale. It has to run in a way that allows you to make changes. You don't have the, hey, at Friday at 5 o'clock, we're going to turn the service off. And then Monday morning, we're going to hope it comes back on when we turn it on because we did some upgrade to some piece of hardware. That's not an option anymore. So how can you build something that's redundant, robust, doesn't slow down, understands at the end of the month you may get more queries about more activity on certain things. Super Bowl weekend in New Orleans, maybe the parking app needs more horsepower behind it, those kinds of things. Okay, so I said I would talk more about security, and this is that part. So what we do is we create what's called a container. And a container is a secured little piece of real estate on the storage. And what it has is, first of all, it has a dedicated encrypted pipe back to the source, but it also has some attributes on it that allow me to do things like, okay, I'm leaving the company, this is my last day, this is my phone, you're not taking it. How are you going to make sure I don't have any of my own intellectual property? Or if I'm, I'll use my example of the CHP officer, his phone was stolen, MDM, or mobile device management, says, wipe the phone. That's a business decision. You can't wipe my phone, I'm a citizen. You better not. You're going to be a lot of problems if you start wiping people's phones. But if I loaded the app and checked the little box that said you're allowed to wipe this stuff off, think about in healthcare. I might want Kaiser to be able to wipe that app for me. If I report it lost, I want to, can you go wipe that stuff off for me? Those kinds of things. So that's this container. Securing the controls means one ID. However you're known is the only way you need to be known. You don't have one ID for the cloud and one ID for this service and one ID for that service. One way of knowing you. And then it includes access management. Maybe, here's an example. I'm sitting at my desk, have my business intelligence application up, and I can do a bunch of stuff using the GIS. I can drill in and I can see property tax bills and I can on any property because that's my job. I work for the county and that's my job. Okay, I'm out in the field for whatever reason and I have my phone. What if you only want me to be able to see half of that information or a third of that information or only see that the account was paid but not have the actual numbers? Those kinds of things. That decision you make is based on where you're accessing from, who you are, all the information that goes into your security schemes. So mobile security has to be an extension of your existing problem, your existing goals. You can't come back and say, well, we built a mobile app, it has way too much information in it, let's figure out how to get it out. You have to build it in. Okay, lots of words here, lots of things to think about. The key things are, if you're thinking about mobile security, some of the things you want to think about is you want to manage the data, not the device. That's that container model. You want to be able to support BYOD, bring your own device, without MDM, mobile device management. MDM is fine. If in certain cases, it's exactly what you want. In other cases, it's never going to sell. It's never going to sell to your user base. Secure communication channels. So right now, if I want to get on the corporate network, I have to fire up a VPN client, put in a credential, which is different than my other credentials, and then the system just works, and I have no idea what it's copying down to the local store. You know, that by having a secure communication channel, you're making the end user's life easier, and you're making it something you know what went down that wire. No non-caching of credentials. Those are some of the buzzwords you're going to hear. ISV friendly. So if you already have an app and you want to run it in our container, there's ways of doing that testing and making sure that that works. It's not a start over with this special API that allows you to store things on the container. It fits in between. It's a service as opposed to an API. And that's why it's so important, because those mobile apps are touching your back-end services, the information that you may not want out there. You may not want to be exposing an e-business suite API or a RESTful web service via the way the app might call it today, because you can reverse engineer those things, and you can then all of a sudden go in and find information that maybe you don't want people to find. So, mobile first strategy. How do you get there? There's a lot to think about, obviously. And I want to make sure I save some time for questions. Oh, there's the 10-minute sign, so perfect timing. There's a lot to think about. And I think one of the key areas is understanding what is your real challenge, articulated in a way that allows you to think about it from some of these perspectives. So, does it really end up being integration? Or have you spent a lot on integration over the last 10 years and you have that service-oriented world and it's all just good from that perspective? If so, great. Then we can spend more time talking about the other things. Security. Have you actually sat down and mapped out the end-to-end security story, the systems that are involved, the pieces of the puzzle, if you will? Is it going to come down to what kind of development skills you have? All these things fit into how you develop this strategy. But I would argue, if somebody came to me and said, we're going to start a project, we're going to put all this information on mobile dashboards for our executives or our senior people. Okay? When are they going to access it? What's the nature of the information? Where's the sources of the information? What are the protocols for sharing that information now that they have it on their device, on their iPad, or on their phones? There's a conversation to be had there, is the point. Nobody has this prepackaged and out of the box. No one's going to walk in and say, we have that answer. So what we have is something called steps. There is Nick in the back there has a piece of paper in his hand that goes through it, and over at the booth there, we're happy to talk to you more about it. But what we do is we come back and we sit down with you and talk about those kinds of questions that I just asked. We sit in a room, we take the product off the table, and we say, what are you trying to do? What is your business? If you're in IT and you're in this room, your business users are beating on you for mobile solutions. If they're not, they're going to be. If you're a business, quote unquote, line of business, you want it, and you're beating on your IT people. So how can we have a better conversation about this and map out a strategy that gives us a quick win, but a meaningful one that lays the framework for moving forward and adding more value as we go forward? So this session, we'll be happy to talk to you about Los Angeles and Las Vegas, Seattle. You know, there's a bunch of opportunities to have conversations around where other people have done this stuff. You know, honestly, we're all adults. If it turns out that you've got a better opportunity to work on something else, maybe we've asked some questions that'll help you in the long run. Thanks, right? I mean, that's how it goes. It's not a paid engagement or anything like that. So we take these challenges and we work through identifying your goals and objectives and some of the things, and we make sure that you keep asking the right questions. And we ask a bunch of those questions, and we help you. We've got people that have done a lot of these, and they can sit down and say, well, here's one approach. So I mentioned Las Vegas with the parking. This one is San Francisco. So it turns out that the parking rates in San Francisco is an elastic market. The night before or the afternoon before a World Series game at Pac-Bell, parking costs more in that neighborhood than it did the day before when they were in Kansas City or they were flying. Shocking, I know. But as you're driving around, how do you know that? How do you find that out? How do you how many blocks? We all make the calculation. See, if I drive 5 blocks and the price drops $10, is that worth the walk back? You look out the window and you think it's pouring rain. No, it's not. You park. So I live near Stanford. They have the exact same thing. This parking lot's up next to the stadium, $30. The parking lot's a little farther away, $20. So even farther away, it's a beautiful place. Park farther away and walk. But the point is that that's how that market works. This is an application that was built to actually not just help you understand the pricing, but actually see availability. So that's a real world use case. That's an app. You go to the app store, you say SF Park, you put it in on your phone, and it's something you would use. If you're up there a lot, you'd use it a lot. If you're up there for one time, maybe not a lot, but you'd use it. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here, obviously. And I talk fast, and I kind of glance over a lot of the slides that have deep content, but I don't want to run out of time. Number one, and I just want to communicate how much there is there. Mobility is so much more. This is the last mile problem. Okay, Apple helped, Google helped. The last mile problem is pretty much taken care of. Great, thanks guys. We still have 80% of the work to do. And that's the important message. We have that's okay. We have a booth out here. There's a couple of our SCs and salespeople. SCs meaning solutions consultant, sales consultant, whatever we call them these days, and the technical guys. 3DI is here. Rajiv can go through any of the details. Turns out they're presenting right now, so I didn't say that earlier because I didn't want a bunch of people to run over and watch him. And let us know. Come find us. We're here. I'm here for another hour or two. We have people all over this area. We have people all over the state, all over the country, really. If you need to talk to one of us, we're here for you. Nick, sitting in the back, that's his phone number right there. So you want to call him. And these slides are all available. And there's a couple of extras too. So with that, I'm done with the presentation part. I will stop wandering back and forth. The cameraman's going nuts back there. Any questions that we can answer for you while we're here? Yeah. Okay. So the question was, if we have PeopleSoft, do you have to upgrade to a specific version? So I can't answer that question definitively, but what I can tell you is that back-end piece, the below-the-line stuff, if there's APIs, you can package those APIs into services so that they're exposed in the server in the mobile world without any changes to your infrastructure. If there's APIs, so some versions, if you get back too many versions, APIs get a little flaky. But the answer should be no. You don't have to. That's one of the reasons for doing that layer is you can make changes up on top and not affect the bottom, or you can upgrade when you want. So Anyone else? Doesn't sound like it. It's always the risk of presenting right before lunch. Okay, thanks for your time, everybody. We're here. We're sitting out there.